Das ist der.
Okay, an die Stange. Ja.
Good evening and welcome to the first live training session in 2015 from Munich's Siebener Street. Nearly the entire squad of Bayern Munich is out on the pitch now after a fairly lengthy holiday. As you all know, in Germany there is a winter break. It's the only major European league that has such a break, and the players that you can see here enjoyed 18 days of holiday, which they used to hopefully relax. Not too much, of course. We'll go through how the players spent their holiday time. In case you're wondering, 4:30 here is the kickoff of this training session. It was announced on the website of Bayern Munich that the session would start at 4 p.m. And in case you're wondering why these training sessions start so late, don't worry. The Bayern players do train enough. A lot of these players have been here for 1 to 2 hours training in the gym already, preparing, warming up there. And then Pep Guardiola sometimes addresses the team in the upstairs training facilities in the gym or the recreational area of the players. So even if they're only out probably for an hour or so today, the players will certainly conduct enough exercises. We're happy that you joined us for this training session here at Munich's Siebener Street. Feel free to share your comments. Let us know from where you're watching. Let us know what you'd like us to focus on, what you'd like us to show from this training session. Of course, it won't be the last live training session coming up. We're planning to show you 2 or 3 training sessions live as well when Bayern embark on their training camp, the winter training camp in Qatar. Friday morning is when the team lifts off for the Arab Emirate, and we're going to provide you with plenty of information, and again 2, possibly 3 live training sessions from there on FC Bayern's YouTube channel. There will be 2 test matches that take place there as well. They'll be live on FCB TV. Let's see what the first few minutes of this training session bring. Pep Guardiola has most of his players at his disposal, so sit back, relax, and enjoy the first couple of minutes of this first live training session here from Munich's Siebener Street.
Er ist
glaube, das ist halt das Problem für die anderen, dass sie keine Chance.
Bayern coach Pep Guardiola commented just before the winter break on the value of this winter break, saying it's good for the players, for the fitness, it's good for the mental preparation, the mental fitness of the players, good for the league, and last but not least, good for the fans as well. A lot of football coming up, of course. Give you a quick rundown of what we have coming up. Tomorrow is another training session here in the morning, and then on Friday, Franck Ribéry and his teammates fly to Qatar. There'll be 2 training sessions most days there, with 1 or 2 exceptions. For instance, on January 13th, test match in Qatar against the so-called Qatar Stars. That will be at 8 p.m. local time, again live on FCB TV. And then there's a test match scheduled for the 17th of January in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Bayern Munich will fly back to Munich immediately after that and arrive here very early on the 18th of January. Another week of training then. Next test match against Bochum on the 23rd of January, and then a week later, 8:30 Central European time, Bayern's second half of the season commences with a tough game in Wolfsburg against the table second team. Really the top match of the season so far, with Wolfsburg really the only team keeping up with Bayern Munich's pace. 17 Bundesliga games played, 14 wins, 3 draws, 0 defeats. Starting on the 30th of January, a busy schedule for Bayern Munich. It starts with what they in Germany call an English week, with 3 Bundesliga matches: Wolfsburg, Schalke and Stuttgart. 3 league heavyweights immediately in the first week. Then a Hamburger week later, followed by the first Champions League game against Donetsk on February 17th. Maybe with the world's best football player between the posts next Monday. Manuel Neuer is up against Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi for the Ballon d'Or, the vote for the best football player on the planet. Bayern fans won't argue for them. He is certainly the best goalkeeper in the world, possibly the best player on the team. I'm sure you'll keep your fingers crossed for the man who's changed the game of goalkeeping, as all experts agree. Record-breaking season not only for Bayern Munich but also for Manuel Neuer. 17 games played again, 14 wins, 3 draws, 41 goals scored in the Bundesliga, and only 4 goals conceded, in part, of course, due to this man's amazing performances. So Bayern starting with a very busy schedule at the end of January. First Champions League game then in the middle of February. And really no break at all for Bayern Munich until the end of March. On the 22nd of March is the next top game of Bayern Munich against Borussia Mönchengladbach. And then the first qualifier, the first national team break takes place. But before then, extremely busy schedule for the Reds, who are aiming to maintain the clear lead in the Bundesliga table. They are 11 points ahead of Wolfsburg. Again, this is the first game of the year 2015, the first competitive game that will take place for Bayern Munich on January 30th. Wolfsburg in turn 6 points ahead in the league of Leverkusen. So really they're the only team that is even close to Bayern. Here's one of the important men behind the scenes, Pep Guardiola, with an extensive team of coaches, fitness coaches and physicians. Speaking of which, a few players missing from training today. No surprises in most cases though. Thiago, for instance, still injured, unable to join in team training. The same goes for Javi Martinez, of course. Also Philipp Lahm, David Alaba, and Pierre-Emil Højbjerg. You saw Tom Starke and Pepe Reina, the 2 goalkeepers, are in team training here today. and are luckily able to train already. Quite a bit of movement here this week already at Bayern before the official start of the training. Quite a few players are working on their fitness. Good news, for instance, that Mehdi Benatia is out here after his injury. Also Holger Badstuber, who commented on how much he's looking forward to torturing, he said himself, in the training camp. Tom Starke has been conducting exercises for a few days now. Fitness exercises, endurance exercises, and goalkeeping exercises. We're going to join Bayern for this exercise. Very popular with the fans, a traditional exercise that every football club conducts, and quite entertaining to watch. Again, for those of you who haven't followed the training sessions at Bayern Munich and who are unfamiliar with this exercise, 2 players in the center trying to chase the ball. Everything above 20 contacts is considered a bit of a humiliation for the players in the center. The players love it, the fans love it too. It gives you a bit of an idea usually of just how amazing the ball handling skills of the Bayern players
Hey, ich mache eins mit Dante. No, 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 tu hai fatto solo uno tu. No, uno. Ti giuro ho fatto 2. No, 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 no. Ho fatto la merda qua, no. La mia sta su che va. Guarda.
Frank, bien.
6, 7, 8.
Sono magro. Warte.
D'accord, bonjour. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17.
Lasciami andare.
No?
3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Ai, che per una telefonata.
No,
Esse. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Frank.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Warte. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, Ai!
Sehr gut, Beppo.
Oh!
Non possibile, che cosa però? Scusa. Ah, sì, Ma jetzt war gut.
36, 33.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Está grande. Bravo! Goed mee, nee! Passé!
1,
4, 5, 6, 7.
Ja, warte noch.
Das ist nicht schwer. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Ai, Tito!
2, 3, 4. 5, 6, 7, 8, 10.
Aqui, Xavier, que machuco. Pô, o cabo tá muito mal.
Bola lenta.
Oi, espera mais, espera mais.
Solamente tú, pero con los frenos arriba.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Manu.
Marokko, Copa da África, Copa da África.
Ja, 2 kwartier.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23.
Du bist in New York.
Australien noch, Australien.
Hey, Pepe, you was this? Hey, you come with this, Du gehst rein.
Für was denn?
Está grande, está grande.
Du brauchst jetzt. Alles will ich haben. Eine Tor weiter.
Warte. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Weg, andere Seite. Ja, weg, andere Seite.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Raus!
Ja, klar.
Chance.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Ai, Peperoni!
Schöne Deutsch, Martin.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Ai, Chacolino! Ah, não!
Stolbal. Warte, Stolbal.
Wo?
10, 12. Schöner Ball. Ja, ich bin bereit.
So muss sein.
Pizza. Noch?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Ja, Manu! Caralho, pai.
Sehr gut.
Manuela. Spina do zero da O Pepe.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8,
Pepe!
9, 10, 11,
Amazing.
Super cool. I think it's for two.
Hey!
Gut. 9. Gut, Pepper. Fabio. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Raus, 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 raus,
Kann ich reingehen dann eigentlich?
So the pass exercise, I think, always gives you a really good idea of two things here. First of all, how skilled the Bayern players are, how good the passing game of Bayern Munich is, although I will admit we've seen a series of 40 and more passes in these exercises before, so maybe some of the players still a little rusty after their 18-day holiday. Second of all, I think it gives you a great idea of the passion that these players have for the game. They're all very excited and very excitable. It's, as we can all see here, great fun for the players to conduct these passing exercises. Here's the second group conducting that. Some of the users have asked in the past why the Bayern players switch when they conduct these exercises. That's simply because, of course, here you want to make sure that the grass and the pitch doesn't suffer too much. We've had a few more questions come in from different users. First is if everyone's back from holiday. Indeed, they have all returned. Again, I gave you a quick bit of a rundown earlier of who's not out on the pitch today. Thiago still unable to join the players on the pitch. Same goes for Javi Martinez, Philipp Lahm, David Alaba and Pierre-Emil Højbjerg, who are all in different stages of their recovery. The first player to come out in the last couple of days was Holger Badstuber. He returned to the training pitch on Sunday. He was the first Bayern player to appear here at the training facilities, and he's conducted quite a few exercises, not only running laps but also really working hard on his strength, endurance, and quite a few grueling exercises. So Badstuber is obviously and fortunately quite close to returning not only to full team training but hopefully to competitive football. Then we had Mehdi Benatia, who returned to the training facilities on Monday. He's been running laps, and as you can see, he's out on the training pitch here today as well. Claudio Pizarro back on the pitch. Here he is in the center of your screen after his injury. Tom Starke and Pepe Reina, the two goalkeepers, are also back. So the time where Manuel Neuer was basically without a backup or only with reserve team goalkeeper Leopold Zingerle on the bench, these times seem to be over. It's not the first season in which Bayern Munich had these injury problems with goalkeepers, and a lot of fans were wondering why Bayern Munich bought Pepe Reina in the first place with Tom Starke considered such a strong goalkeeper. The answer lies in the last season when Bayern Munich, in very crucial weeks, all of a sudden had a reserve team goalkeeper Lukas Reda on the bench because of an injury of Tom Starke. And this season, even three top goalkeepers weren't enough, or at least Bayern were close to having some difficulties there, again when Leopold Zingerle had to fill in on the bench. David Alaba return to training on Monday, also outside with football boots on his feet. That's always the most exciting part of the recovery program for football players, when they can actually run laps outside. Here's Holger Badstuber, Mario Götze, and in possession Sinan Kurt, one of Bayern's hopeful young talents. Alaba returned on Monday to conduct training outside, endurance exercises, fitness exercises, and ran several laps around the pitch. And then Pierre-Emil Heuberg, back in training since Monday, also predominantly in the gym, but running laps as well. Apart from that, everyone's in training, with the exception of Juan Bernat. We're actually trying feverishly right now to find out why he's missing from this training. I'll admit that we did expect to see him out today. We'll answer that question as soon as we can. You can find updates. Well, if we get it in time, I'll let you know. If not, then you can find updates about that on our website. But apart from that, all the Bayern players fit and ready to go, not only today and tomorrow morning, but fortunately, and that's what's the best news for Coach Pep Guardiola, also all ready to go to Qatar, with the aforementioned exceptions.
Ik heb dus een vraag naar Lena. Neem die mutter. Alle beginnen moeten. Alle beginnen.
Da gibt es auch was, oder? Oder gut Gelegenheit nicht.
Я профиля. Я же меланья спасибо. Папа, ты папа. Pida, repesme.
Ja, dan gaan we. Ja, ze doen die daar gaan met daar. Dan nu, kun je maar even dat ook dat je direct maar. Zwei hier, zwei drüben.
Ich habe keinen Kommentar gehört. Zu diesem Plan.
You can see there are quite a few fans at the training facilities despite the pretty terrible weather. It's cold, wet and windy in Munich, and that answers another frequently asked fan question. Why do the football clubs actually travel to training camps in winter? We have heated pitches now and fantastic pitch conditions regardless of the weather really, so why bother? I think the conditions are the main reasons Bayern Munich travel to Qatar. They've been there in winter for several years now. The training facilities there are simply outstanding. The hotel is located right on the pitch, which makes it, of course, very easy for the players to regenerate during training sessions. There's no traveling back and forth. Again, at this time of the year, the Emirate provides great weather conditions. It's usually around 15 to 20 degrees Celsius. It's dry weather. And apart from all these conditions, I think coaches really like the fact to have this team spirit built again during the winter, to have the players all together, to be completely focused on the tasks up ahead. Here's Toni Tapalovic. She's been here for a few days already as well, training with Tom Starke in particular. That's another frequently asked question. Where is Manuel Neuer during these exercises? It's common for Toni Tapalovic to start with the goalkeepers, while Manuel Neuer, and he's here in the center of your screen, is still joining in these passing exercises. The answer you can see every Saturday on the pitch. Manuel Neuer practices this consciously and purposely. He wants to be involved in the passing game of Bayern Munich. It's important for him to be a great football player because of the aggressive attacking style of his game, and that's why he needs to practice not only goalkeeping but also his passing game, his accuracy and consistency in particular in the passing game. So as you can see, the weather's getting worse and worse here. It's beginning to snow. It's cold in Munich. I think here this picture gives you a great answer of why Bayern Munich decided not to stay in Munich for this winter, even though the players don't seem to mind. Bit of a novelty, I'm sure, for Xabi Alonso. It's his first winter in the Bundesliga, coming from Spain, and even in Liverpool he will not have experienced evenings like this very often. But again, take it all in your stride, take it in good spirits. That's what you're supposed to do as a football professional, and you can see it in the faces of the players. That's what they're doing.
Ich gehe rein, das war's. Nice, nice.
Ja, bei mir schneit es voll. Flutlichter mit das schon durch, ja. Oh, gut. Die Keule ist aufgeschüttet. Nur die dürfen da rein. Hautnah. Mit Doppelrunds, das ist einfach geil, oder?
Most of these players, and that explains these pictures, haven't seen each other for a while. Happy to be back together in the group. And of course, most of them decided to spend their holidays in warm areas. Some of them went home to their families, others traveled to very warm climates. But you might have, if you follow some of these players on Twitter or Facebook, might have seen some updates. The time of just enjoying your holiday with good food is over for these players. There's a lot of training involved there as well. Of course, these players extremely ambitious. On the left, Arjen Robben, prime example of a player who doesn't relax, who says, for me, a fitness program in my holiday is just a part of life. That's what I have to do. Another user asked us earlier how long this training session will be, or how long these training sessions usually are. That's tough to say, particularly today. Again, it's the first training session after a holiday. It's unusual for the players to run laps in groups. That's something that we don't see very often, at least not during the season. That's something that the players sometimes do I suppose in the winter training camp or in the pre-season training camp. Usually training sessions last about 1.5 hours, but again, it's tough to say because the players meet at the training facilities at different times. Some players have to conduct more extensive or less extensive preparation before and then regeneration exercises after the training sessions. So while we do have training sessions occasionally that only last 45 minutes or an hour outside on the pitch, the players will have trained for at least 1.5 to 2 hours, depending on their personal fitness situation. Some players require massages after each and every training. Some players warm up more than others do. That's very individual. Usually you can say during the season a training session lasts about 90 minutes. Again, don't count on this one being 90 minutes. It's an unusual training session. It's the first one. It's not going to be as hard as usual. And in these conditions, I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see the typical passing, shooting exercises. Pep Guardiola might just keep that up his sleeve for Qatar. Today, it's a bit of a welcoming back and warm-up session for the second half of the season. As the players pass the Paulaner Treff beer garden that you just saw in the background, gives me the opportunity to answer another user question who says he'd love to spend some time in that beer garden during official training hours and watch the players run around the pitch while he's sitting there in peace and quiet enjoying his Weissbier. It's a Paulaner Treff is the name, so you can look up online what the exact opening hours are, but by far and large, generally speaking, yes, the beer garden in the background is indeed open to the public during the official training sessions. Maybe not the late evening sessions, but it's open today and certainly usually open while Pep Guardiola asks his team out here on the pitch of Munich's Sebener Street. Guardiola, by the way, was asked if he needed the winter break and if it was an important time of rest for him, and he said not so much for the coaches. No, that's not really necessary because coaches have a bit of a break during the Euro and World Cup qualification breaks the players embark on. That's usually a time in which only a few players are still in Munich. Of course, a club like Bayern Munich has very many, let's say, national team players, a few retired players like Alonso, like Lahm, like Ribéry, and a few young hopefuls like Kurt, Weise, or Sebastian Rode, who are hoping for a career in the national team. But of course, the majority of Bayern players is not in Munich during these World Cup and European qualifier breaks for the national teams. And Pep Guardiola said that's when the coaches have a little bit of time to relax, when they're not under the stress of having to perform every single day.
Was? Stand der Rode, Mann. Ja, schick's mir noch ein Foto.
Ja, okay.
Facebook. Get Januar. War mit dem schon studiert. Oder nicht? Alle sind eigentlich schon erst wieder Spiele.
Daar is heel veel aan de snapje van. Ik ben echt op.
Ja, Marathon. Was du jetzt noch machst?
Wo ist schon gegangen?
1,5 Stunden.
En nu is schon vorbei, oder?
Oh, ich bin erst um halb gekommen. Halbe Stunde, 40 Minuten.
Ακόμα τόσο δεν παλεύομαστε, φάγαμε την και στο μάξι. Και σας περιμένουμε.
Θα πάω να φάμε και θα σας περιμένουμε.
Πάμε καλοκαίρι, Komm.
Dann haben die auch Bock, kann mir sagen, dass wir jetzt bei diesem Wetter nach Bock haben.
Die haben keine Option, den ist schon warm.
Steht nichts.
Da bin ich auch da.
Seems the running exercise is over in this group. Manuel Neuer, Jerome Boateng, Mario Götze, Robert Lewandowski, and also Gianluca Gaudino. We can see Thomas Müller return inside. Honestly, can't answer why, but judging by the speed with which he's running back inside, maybe he's just picking up a jacket. We had one user ask us just now who the young player with the long hair is. I assume that user meant the young man on the right, Gianluca Gaudino. He is one of the 4 young players, young talented players that will join Bayern Munich in Qatar, at least that's scheduled so far. Gianluca Gaudino, Leopold Zingerle, Mitchell Weiser, and also Sinan Kurt will join Bayern in Qatar. Again, apart from that, all the key players on board. Few fitness coaches here. The man in white, Holger Broich, is one of the fitness coaches who's been keeping particularly busy in the last couple of days. For most fans and for most Bayern players, today is the start of the training session. But Holger Badstuber and Holger Broich, they've already conducted several training sessions here in the past few days. I can guarantee, by the way, that we'll have a few more, a few different pictures when we show you the training sessions from Qatar. It's a good opportunity, of course, here to see the Bayern players all up close and in action. But once the team heads off to Qatar, there'll be a few more interesting passing, shooting exercises Why Thomas Müller fetched Claudio Pizarro's glove, I cannot tell you. I assume there was a bit of a bet going there. That's the only reason I can imagine why Thomas Müller would have to run back inside to fetch Claudio Pizarro's gloves. A lot of players have chosen to do without. Even, well, you can see it. Rafinha here, the only Brazilian in this group, is also the only man wearing gloves. That's not so surprising, even if players like Pizarro, Rafinha and Dante grudgingly have accepted the weather in Germany. And of course, training the way they do, they keep warm on the pitch. But again, this is a very unusual training session in which the players simply run laps around the pitch. That's nothing that we see usually at all.
Jetzt wird dir was Neues, oder?
Pepe Reina on your screen. You might have followed his story. A really unfortunate series of events for Pepe Reina. Joined Bayern Munich in summer. Didn't play a competitive match at all. Played one test match for Bayern Munich, and in his very first scene in this game, wasn't even a save. He was trying to clear the ball, just hammer it away from goal, when he sustained a pretty severe thigh muscle injury that set him out for weeks. Now, Pepe Reina is finally back again, eager to help Bayern Munich. The man in goal right now is the aforementioned young hopeful Leopold Zingerle. In the last few weeks, nearly months, you can say, he was the only backup for Manuel Neuer, as Reina and Tom Starke were both out with injury. Pepe Reina certainly a really big name as the second goalkeeper at Bayern Munich. This is Leopold Zingerle, the reserve team goalkeeper of Bayern Munich, but also backup now for the Stars. The training session we're seeing here today is one I think most football players, most amateur football players can relate to, and that's fairly unusual. Usually we see very complicated passing exercises. You watch that for about 30 seconds and you look at it and think, okay, I would never be able to fit in here, sneak into a binding training session, passing the ball around a little bit and then running laps. That's something a lot of football players can relate to, I think. But it seems to me as if the lap running time conducted by the man in white here, Holger Broich, is over. A little bit of a break for the Bayern players. Let's see what happens next. All the Stars back on the pitch. Xabi Alonso, before that Robert Lewandowski, 10 goals in all competitions, played a great first half of the season, as did the man in the center here, of course, Jerome Boateng, the best defender certainly of the first half of the Bundesliga season in the really only expert football publication in Germany. He was voted a world-class defender, as the only defender in the league, and the Bayern fans certainly won't disagree. Bastian Schweinsteiger, and that's one of several really good items of news for the Bayern fans. The god of football, as the fans still call him, back. He's been back for a while, of course, as you know, celebrated his comeback a couple of weeks before the winter break, played some good games, scored some beautiful goals, at least that beautiful match-winning goal really against Mainz with a direct free kick. He's back, but he said himself, the winter break, the training camp, that's going to be really, really important for him to just get his match fitness going again. It is these periods of the year where the players conduct more grueling running exercises than during the season. The fitness foundation really is laid in this training camp, in these weeks of exclusively training. Claudio Pizarro has to discontinue here. Again, he's just back from injury. Might make sense for him to conduct a few more exercises in the gym, while the players here are just being forced to run up and down the pitch again. It's a delight for every amateur football player to watch this. Usually we see exercises that would embarrass every amateur player, going by the precision and speed of which these exercises are conducted with. But today it's just chasing these players up and down the pitch, something that every amateur and hobby player who's been in a club, I suppose, has experienced many, many times. And still not a word of complaint. Again, this man in particular knows how important these sessions are for him. Been out for quite a while, and this man even more so. Holger Badstuber, 20-month injury break after 2 torn ACLs. He had a great comeback in summer, played in the starting formation of the first 3 Bundesliga games of the season, then set back with the next injury, and said himself to be back on the pitch after 1.5 years was just a fantastic feeling for me. And now Bartschua is confident that he can A, return soon, and B, if he does return, stay fit and stay with the team for a long time. It gives Bayern Munich plenty of options in defense. Bartstuber described by club boss Karl-Heinz Rummenigge as his personal hero of the year 2014. Here are the knees that every Bayern fan keeps an eye on, the man every Bayern fan has been suffering with in the past few months. But there's reason for confidence that he'll be able to return. A few interesting developments I'm sure we'll be able to see. On the far left, just out of your screen, there was Sebastian Rode, who really only had highlight games towards the end of the first half of the season, but already very popular with the Bayern fans. The comeback of Holger Bartstuber will certainly have some interesting repercussions for Bayern Munich's defense, with Dante Benatia and Jerome Boateng capable of playing in the center, and of course with Bayern Munich having played quite a few games with a three-man defense. This is Rode. Pep Guardiola described him as one of his favorite players because he's young, gifted, talented, and eager to learn. He says himself he's quite happy with the first half of the season. He made an impact. He probably didn't play as much as he would have liked to, although he didn't admit that. But when he did play, he made an impact, showed some strong performances, and again, the praise of Pep Guardiola was really good for this young man. There's a lot of Bayern fans who are putting a lot of confidence and a lot of promise into this man for the future of Bayern Munich. Could become a real asset in Bayern Munich's midfield, which has had so many players injured. Again, Thiago out. Philipp Lahm now has to be counted as a midfield player in this Bayern squad after having played fullback for so many years. Same really goes for David Alaba, who has played more games in midfield in this first half of the season than on the fullback position. He'll join Bayern Munich in Qatar, although as you can see he's not able to join in the full team training sessions yet. This man also had some injury problems during the summer, but came back with a bang. Franck Ribéry, good first half of the season. Same goes for Mario Götze, just like Jerome Boateng. Didn't really show much of a dip in performances after the World Championship. Ribéry, like Philipp Lahm and Xabi Alonso, says now that the national team breaks really help him. Although I don't like Ribéry bending over to touch his knee, that's never a good sign. But he says that these national team breaks are really important. That's the reason why Philipp Lahm retired from the German national team. A lot of fans asked the question why, and particularly why did Philipp Lahm decide to retire before the World Championship was even played. He's commented it's not so much the physical fitness that troubled him. Lahm is, as Pep Guardiola has talked about on several occasions, really a bit of a fitness machine, someone who's very, very rarely injured. It's a big exception not to see him out on the training pitch here today because, of course, his fractured ankle injury that he's still suffering from. But Lahm said more than the fitness, it's the mental strain, having to concentrate on Bayern Munich, playing 3 games a week for months on end, and then not being able to switch off, but then having to refocus immediately on really important tasks for the German national team. That's just something that took a toll on the young father. He said he just wanted, after so many years of being an integral part of Bayern Munich and the German national team, he wanted to have these breaks, he wanted to switch off so that in future he could still bring his best performances. So we have a couple of updates for you. And a couple more user questions that have come in. Juan Bernat, some have already suggested that he returned late from the holidays. That doesn't happen at Bayern Munich. Happens still at some clubs, I suppose, but at Bayern it's really been years since you had players who decided, oh, I'll just come a day or two too late. Here we can see Pep Guardiola. He's obviously had enough of the weather. That's usually an indication that most players will join him pretty soon as well. They might conduct a couple more laps. And at the center of your screen, and more users have asked that, why is Manuel Neuer not in goal? Why is he not training with the other goalkeepers? It's the specific situation that we're in. First of all, you need to realize Pepe Reina and Tom Starke were injured for a long time, haven't conducted many goalkeeping exercises at all in the past few weeks and months. Both Reina and Tom Starke returned from injury, conducting physical exercises, lap running, sprints, and so on and so forth, and endurance exercises, but just haven't had the opportunity in recent months to train their specific goalkeeping tasks. That's very different for Manuel Neuer, so that's one of the reasons why the other goalkeepers require the goalkeeping training more than Neuer right now. And as I mentioned earlier, Neuer traditionally always in part trains with the team, usually at the beginning of the training session, then towards the end, where he doesn't stand in goal, but where he's involved in the attacking game and the passing game, of course, simply because for his risky approach to the game, he needs to be strong and firm in passing. He wants to be involved in the passing game. He needs to practice that because he, in some games, has a lot more contacts of the ball with his foot than any opposition player. Sinan Kurt and Gianluca Gardino are the last two players, it seems, to leave the pitch. So that also answers the question asked earlier by one of the users: how long is this training session? We've now been with the team for approximately 1 hour. That doesn't mean that this was the entire length of the training session. Again, particularly when the weather's bad like this, the players tend to warm up indoors. They go into the gym. Some of them spend an hour or 1.5 hours in the gym before the training session even starts, with all kinds of different exercises. This is the long-haired young talent Gianluca Gardino, who will join Bayern Munich in Qatar, hoping to impress Pep Guardiola as much as he did when he first appeared on the scene, and that was, of course, in the summer training camp of Bayern Munich. He joined Bayern in the US on their American tour in summer and fit in so nicely that Pep Guardiola decided to give him the chance to train with the pro team. So, as we're watching Gianluca Gardino with a few more passing exercises and a few fairly impressive tricks, that's all from us. We hope you enjoyed this first live training session. I guarantee when we show the next few training sessions, we'll have a few more of the usual exercises we see. Again, this was the first exercise, or the first training session that I've seen this year, in which the players actually did nothing more than run laps around the pitch. Usually pure running exercises are a very, very rare exception to Pep Guardiola's training sessions. We'll see far more passing, shooting, far more confusing, complex exercises in Qatar. It's impossible for us right now to announce exactly when we'll be able to show you the live training sessions, simply because we'll have to wait and see what happens when we arrive in Qatar. But get ready for at least 2 live training sessions from Doha. Bayern Munich embark on their 8-day winter training camp on January 9th in the early morning on Friday, and then we'll provide you on FTV TV, on YouTube and on Facebook with all kinds of video clips, all kinds of information, and on our website, of course, as well. So stay tuned. The winter training break, the 18-day break from football in Germany, is over. Football is back at Bayern Munich, and we will provide you with everything you need to know as a Bayern fan. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.
Ich komm nicht mehr hoch. Oh, Scheiße, Stativ.